This is the No More OGs podcast. From controversial topics to creating financial freedom, we will talk to real people about real situations, providing real solutions. No celebrity endorsements. Bringing you unfiltered discussions, dope interviews, and giving you the blueprint to create the culture that you will be proud of. So kick back, turn up the volume, and let's get to it. Here's your host, yours truly, Mr. Purpose on Demand, Mr. Retired at 37, Mr. Tim Jackson.
Hey, what's going on? It's your man, Tim Jackson. This is the No More OGs podcast. I am your host, and I'm here today for an amazing episode. This is the one I've been waiting for because this guy right here, this is my personal attorney. One of my good friends, someone that I've known for about 5 or 6 years, probably 6 years now.
Yeah, it's been about 6.
It's been about 6 years now. So this is a gentleman, man. If you all have seen me post legal information, it's his law firm along with his partner's law firm. But this is a guy who was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, has committed his life to the criminal justice system as it relates to teaching people how to navigate that system, has his own law firm. We'll go into that in a moment, but you all, I want to present to some. I want to introduce to some and present to others my brother, Mr. Demarcus Ward. What's good with you, man?
Doing all right, my brother. I appreciate you bringing me on, man. It's been a long time coming.
It has been a long time coming, man, and this is that time where we really need to seize the opportunity because I did a post the other day, and honestly, bro, watching your reels kind of inspired me to start posting stuff about legal stuff, and I just randomly put this post up with Judge Mathis talking about expunctions, and that shit right now, as I looked at it today, is at 1.4 million views, and I'm like, man, this is crazy how people don't know you can get your record expunged. Just they don't really know how to navigate the legal process. And so many people need this information. And I watched you and your partner, Danny, you guys are putting out all this information for legal stuff. So I said, let me bring you onto the show because you got something that people need, man. Like, seriously.
Well, I appreciate it. And you're right. The expunctions and non-disclosures is pretty much what it's called. It varies from state to state, but most of them call them expunctions or non-disclosures. A lot of people just don't know how to do it. And a lot of times people think that it just automatically happens because the system really doesn't tell you what to do. A lot of times what they'll do is they just want you to get out of their face. And I'll just be straight up with you. Hey, your case is getting dismissed, or if you complete this program, it'll be dismissed. And so the ordinary person just thinks, okay, well, I did my part. So they're going to do their part. And a lot of times they don't find out until they go apply for a job or, they're trying to get into an apartment. And the apartment is saying, hey, this is on your background. And I've had this conversation a million times. No, that got dismissed. Well, it's showing. Well, it's not supposed to show. And then I get a call and then I have to check and see what happened. And then I've got to give this news to folks that, hey, sometimes they don't even qualify. If I'm lucky, the conversation is, yes, you qualify, so you can get it done, and here are the steps you need to take. A lot of times I have to tell people you were misinformed. I don't like to say lied to, but a lot of times they were lied to. So I try to tell them you were misinformed. And so you don't get to get that expunged and you don't get to get that sealed.
Well, let's talk about that because, when I did the post, I had some people, sharing the post and they were like, I don't know if this doesn't work in my area or I don't know if this is right. I tried it and mine, didn't get, they told me I wouldn't qualify for it. So let's just speak from a standpoint of Texas only. All right. I'm coming to you. Let's say I had a robbery case, right? They put me on probation.
Okay.
I did my probation. And I was told that after I did my probation, I can have this expunged from my record after 5 or 10 years. Like, is that really the case, or how does that typically work?
In that situation, no. So let's talk about that specific situation because it does vary on a case-by-case basis. Let's say it's a robbery case. A robbery is a second-degree felony. Aggravated robbery is a first-degree felony. But we'll stay with robbery for now. First of all, if you plead guilty to it and you get placed on probation, there is no expungement, ever. There's no expungement. If you take probation, there's no expungement. However, you can get your record sealed in that case. But the way you get it sealed is you have to make sure you're on deferred probation. Deferred probation is the type of probation where there's no conviction. And if you complete the probation and the case is dismissed at the end of it, however, you still have to go through the process of getting it sealed. Now, how do you get it sealed? First of all, you have to wait 5 years from the date that you are done with probation. So let's say, for example, today is February 24th, 2023. You're not eligible to get your record sealed until February 24th, 2028. And what I do in my firm is that we will calendar that date in our own system. and we'll call up the people or email them, text them, and then we'll go through the process from there. So in Texas, if you're placed on deferred probation for a robbery and you complete the probation, then you can get your record sealed 5 years down the line. You cannot get it expunged, but you can get it sealed. And I can tell you the difference between those two as well.
Tell me the difference between the two, because that's the next question, right? You know, in the comments, people are like, well, what is the difference between sealed and expunged? I definitely know what expunge means, but like, what does it mean for sealed?
Okay, expunge. Well, let's just start with expunge. Expunge means completely erased from your record. That means it falls off of the government database and everywhere. It pretty much. It undoes it. It's like it didn't happen.
It's like it never happened.
It is I call it the magic eraser.
Yeah, the golden ticket.
It's the golden ticket. And obviously that's the one that you prefer. Getting your record sealed means that it is blocked from private companies. So for example, let's say if you have your record sealed and you go apply for a job at Bank of America, Bank of America won't be able to see it because it's been sealed. However, if you go apply for a job at the police department,
them niggas will be able to see it.
They're going to be able to see it, you know, or the Department of Justice or federal. Yeah, they're going to see it. So that's the difference, you know. And 95% of us don't work for the government. So having your record sealed is still a big plus.
It's huge.
It's huge. And then even on the apartment complex deal, if your record is sealed, they won't be able to see it either. So expunged is obviously the best one, but getting your record sealed is still a very big deal.
So once I take the conviction, like you say, if I got in trouble and I pled guilty, let's say I did a plea bargain, and this is all in theory and it's all based on Texas law. You know, if I do a plea bargain, I admit guilt, then I'm pretty much, it's a wrap. I can't do anything about that. That's not necessarily true. In Texas, in order to get there, let me go back. Let's go back.
There's so much I got to say. There's two types of probation. Okay. There's straight probation, which is an automatic conviction. That means the moment you stand before that judge and you say guilty, you are a convicted felon for the rest of your life. And even after you're dead, when your kids Google you, that conviction is going to show. Yeah. Now, deferred probation is the type of probation where you are not convicted automatically. And that's why it's called deferred. The court is deferring making you a convicted felon to give you a chance on probation, or community supervision is the official term for it. And as long as you complete it, you're never convicted.
It's like a deferred adjudication, like when you get a ticket.
Yes, except longer with more classes.
I'm the king of the deferred adjudication on the speeding tickets.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like that. It is.
Really? So do most people even know that you can defer your felony cases? Or is that something that like public defendants don't speak of? Because most of the guys that I know that got caught up when we were fresh out of high school, I mean, getting caught up for stupid shit, Demarcus. They have felonies. And it's just like, well, that shit happened 10, 15, 20 years ago, in my case. And they still have those felonies. I'm thinking to myself, well, damn, they just go in and plead. Did their public defendant not tell them, hey, we can defer this? Because I had no clue what a deferment was. I'll never forget a white dude told me what a deferment was. And I was like, what the fuck is a deferment? He says, yeah, Jack. I think I was in the military. He said, yeah, Jack. He said, if you get a speeding ticket, you can go to the judge and do what's called a deferred adjudication. I think I'm saying that right. Where essentially you're admitting that you were speeding, but you take defensive driving, or you take a course or something like that. And as long as you don't get a ticket within 90 days in that county, it goes away forever. He said, all you're doing is paying the fine, and your insurance company won't see it or anything. And I'm like, what the fuck? I've never even heard of this shit. I've been paying tickets all this time, right? So do you think that there's a situation where many of the public defendants were just like, man, just sign this so we can get you out the way?
Well, I think that, and I'll say this, bad lawyers, there are bad public lawyers and there are bad private lawyers. You can get screwed over by a private lawyer that you're paying just as much as you can get screwed over by an appointed lawyer as well.
That's a fact.
And I know some very good people in the public defender's office. I know some very good court-appointed lawyers, and I know some very good private lawyers as well. Now, in the reverse, I know bad ones across the board in all those areas as well. So I do think a lot of times it's a situation where people just aren't informed of what's going on. But I also think, you know, sometimes the streets misinforms people too, because some people do know about deferred probation. Now there's not a catch, but there's another side of it too. So let's go back to your robbery situation, right? Yeah. And on a robbery case, you can face anywhere from 2 to 20 years in prison. So let's say you do straight probation, where you say, I'm going to be a convicted felon. For whatever reason, you choose that. If you choose that, what you can do is you could put a cap on the amount of prison time you do if you mess up. So, for example, it's a robbery. Your normal exposure is 20 years. You can say, hey, look, cap me at 10, and I'll let you make me a convicted felon for the rest of my life. With deferred, the other side of it is they have the full range of punishment if you mess up. So a lot of times the streets will say, well, you know, if you mess up, then they can give you the max, which is true. However,
it's rare.
It's very rare.
Yeah, especially like a city like Dallas.
Especially in a city like Dallas County. I've never seen a situation to where someone got treated differently by a judge because they were on deferred probation versus straight probation. Okay. I just haven't seen it. Now, your exposure is different, but if you are looking at being able to keep your record clear, and especially not be a convicted felon, you take that all day, because the way that a felony cripples you, people really don't understand until years down the line.
They don't, bro. I'll never forget, man. Like, I know people who, and I tell people with real estate, you know, lenders don't care about felonies. But them property management companies, they do. They will not, I don't care if it's a gun charge, if it's a weed charge, a distribution charge, I don't care what it is. They will find a reason not to let you move in those apartments because they got so many people applying, and their mindset, I'm just going to take the best application.
Absolutely.
And I get people call me all the time like, Tim, man, I have a felony. Like, what should I do? And I'm like, you need to get your credit right. You need to stack your money so you can buy a house, because a lender don't give a fuck about that. But most people, the mentality is, let me just go find me something to rent. Let me do this right here. And I feel like this is a platform that's educating people like of their options, because 1.4 million people later, people just don't know that you can get expungements. Like, you can get your record cleared and clean after so much time if you qualify. And I think people miss the opportunity in having enough patience to wait, having enough patience to do that process, trusting the process, getting an attorney,
getting the right attorney,
right? And then going through with it.
Absolutely. You're right. I mean, I've been practicing law for 15 years, and I didn't go straight to law school after undergrad. I worked as a paralegal. I went to Law Magnet High School. So real life experience. I mean, I'm 20 plus years in. And there are things that still baffle me, and there are things that I still have to research. You see, I came in with my backpack. There's a code, there's a code book in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because even with all of those things, I still have to refresh my memory. So your ordinary person who just, you know, they're raising a family, they're going to work, they're just trying to get by, they certainly don't have the time to, you know, become a savant on the law. And you're right. And the most important thing is getting the right lawyer on the front end, because just like I said at the beginning of this interview, it's a hard conversation to have with somebody to say, hey, look, that happened 6 or 7 years ago, and 99% of opportunities you have to undo it are gone. Yeah. And the 1% that are remaining, it's like a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much stuck. And that's hard news to give to somebody, because a lot of times you'll have young man, young woman who did something or was involved in a group or something like that when they were 18
years old, bro. When you have no fucking clue of how life works, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and so many of our people didn't get proper guidance because their parents didn't get proper guidance, and the cycle continues. So we're late bloomers to a lot of things when it comes to the success thing. So we have to study it, figure it out. You got a lot of folks who I know who are 40 years old coming to me.
Yep.
Man, I've got this thing that's 20 years old. I've got a great opportunity now, but this is holding me back. This company says if I get rid of this or if I do this, then literally I can triple my income and change the trajectory of my entire family.
Let's talk about that. Let's just park there for a minute, because, you know, the whole platform, No More OGs, is essentially giving the mentorship for situations like that. Like, I went this morning and spoke to a group of boys, right? And what I find a lot of times is, as a black man, when I get in front of kids, when I get in front of younger people, they want me to fit this mold. They want me to be a street nigga that's out there doing my thing, but now I'm making millions of dollars. And it's just like, that's not how it works in the real world.
Right.
Typically, you don't start getting your money until you're late in your 30s, your 40s. Right. Like the average millionaire begins in the 40s, right? But what happens also is that so much bad information is passed down from generation to generation to generation that now it's harder for me to even talk to kids now, because I can give them all the game in the world, but they'll go back home to their parents or whoever, and they're like, oh no, that shit don't work. That shit ain't real. Well, how do you know if you've never experienced it? And why aren't we trying to put our kids in front of people who are not athletes, who are not entertainers, to teach them about life and teach them that you can do more than be a street nigga? Like that just baffles me. And then when they get caught up in it, it's like you have to wait until you're in your 40s to finally say, I want to do something better.
Man, you're right. And
that was a lot.
That was a lot. And I don't have an answer for it. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. When I first,
damn it, Demarcus, I need an answer. No,
I'll say this. Before I went into private practice, I worked at the DA's office here in Dallas, and I remember when I worked in the DA's office, I did that. I came out my first day as a defense lawyer. Had an older black lawyer come up to me and he said, Demarcus, I'm gonna tell you right now, 20 minutes of common sense, it's not gonna change 20 years of ignorance. So don't beat your head trying to fix everybody.
Whoa.
20
we gonna park there. 20 minutes of common sense is not gonna change 20 years of ignorance.
Right.
Shit.
Right.
That's crazy.
And that's the realest shit I've ever heard since I've been in private practice. And I see it again and again. And I say it because it's basically what you're going through and what you say. And you're right. You go places and it's like you're fighting against this system that's there, and you're like, look, I have the keys. I don't have all the answers, but I got some keys right here, and it'll change things, and they're simple. But how do you get somebody to digest it before their life is messed up? So
it's funny you say that, because now that I'm into the whole content creation and doing a podcast, before I started doing this podcast, I used to always say, man, the system is put in place to beat us up, and the system put in place, and I agree that the system is fucked.
Right.
But I feel like we are driving it. Absolutely. Like it's on auto drive. Like, for instance, you think about if you're watching videos on social media. If I watch an entire video on some ratchet shit, the very next video I get is going to be some ratchet shit.
Right.
The video after that's going to be some ratchet shit. Mm-hmm. Like the algorithm will learn, oh, he likes ratchet shit.
Right.
On the flip side, if I watch an entire video on Demarcus giving me legal advice,
right,
the next video is going to be a motherfucker giving me some legal advice. So at what point in the game do we switch it up and say, okay, maybe I need to realize that this shit ain't ever worked.
Absolutely.
It's time for me to go over here and see if this shit motherfucking works.
No, you're right. You're right. It's like walking through fire and then wondering how the hell you got burned. Of course you're going to get burned. I think we just have to work to, keep educating people. And just like your programs, I've seen the things that you're doing, and you are making strides. Somebody has to be the change. And believe me, I'm up in that courthouse, and I'm saying things to my clients, and I'm telling them, look, this is what it is. I know this is what the streets say. I know this is what your cousin said or your uncle who had a situation like this. But I'm telling you how this is going to go down today in 2023 in this courthouse. You got a different police officer that arrested you. You got a different detective on your case. You got a different prosecutor on your case. It's in a different courtroom with a different judge, with a different administration and different laws, because laws do change and we don't keep up with them.
And we don't keep up. I was watching Michael Vick was doing an interview, and when he was talking about, how he went through his dog case, he said out of all the attorneys he hired, because he had a team of attorneys, he said the attorney that he paid the less money and the attorney that cared about him the most told him the truth.
Yeah. He's probably black.
So the attorney said, bro, you're going to have to sit this one out. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to do some jail time. Like, right. I don't care what everyone's telling you. This is your judge. This judge don't play.
We pay for lies.
Yeah. And he said, he literally said that. He said, I paid to have a couple more attorneys lie to me.
Yeah, we pay for lies. And I'll tell you, in the streets, we pay for lies. I've seen it so many times. I've had people walk into my office, and I always ask, have you talked to any other attorneys? And they say yes. And I don't ask to price check or anything like that. I just want to know what plans they've been given, because what I try to give people when they walk in my office is a plan. I don't just say, hey, this is where I need to get started. Hey, I mean, obviously I'm in business to make money. It's a private company. So yeah, this is what it'll take. However, this is the roadmap too. So that they can decide, which roadmap I like. And a lot of times it'll be like, well, so-and-so guaranteed me a dismissal. Oh, really? Okay. Well, if he guarantees you a dismissal, you should go with him. Matter of fact, make sure you get that shit in writing on your contract too. And I'll do one further. If he guaranteed a dismissal and he puts it in writing, I'll pay whatever fee he's charging you. And I've never had somebody come back and say, hey, here it is.
Here it is.
We pay for lies. We pay for comfort sometimes. And that is one of those deals to where we got to get past it. And I understand it. Nobody wants to do time. Nobody even wants to do probation.
Shit, nobody even want that charge.
Nobody even wants the charge.
Now, as a defense attorney, you see a lot of people make mistakes. You see people come into your office doing some of the craziest things, but you also understand that people just aren't really savvy, or they don't know anything about how the law really works. Like, what are some things that you feel like we should talk about today that you should really bring to the light that people just have no clue about, that could really change their lives forever if they don't understand it?
And first of all, there's a big difference between what the law says and what really happens in court.
Yeah.
That's first and foremost. Google is a resource, but Google should not be your guide through some of the most important stuff in your life. You may think that you got what's called a suppressible issue, some evidence that should be thrown out. And hell, I might agree with you.
Yeah.
But in that courthouse, a lot of it is about self-preservation. Is that judge going to grant that motion to suppress when he or she may have to deal with the police department who may come upon her? Because, we've got situations now where, a judge may reduce a bond, and then the next day you've got, somebody in the police department in front of the TV ridiculing that person. And so,
and it's an election year,
and especially if it's an election year.
Yeah, so, I just saw a judge, and it's not to shit on anybody, but I was reading in the news the other day about a judge who recently got reelected, but they were mad at her, or they were calling out how many times this person had been recused from certain cases, right? And it's just little things like that where a person may say, hey, from my standpoint, I'm exercising integrity. I know this person, or I'm familiar with this situation. It wouldn't be fair. Somebody could take that and spin it against you and say, hey, this person doesn't know what they're doing. Oh, they're getting reelected. Oh, let's throw some money in their campaign. And then we have that mindset of, well, this should happen because of this. It's like, no, it don't work like that. Right.
We've got to separate the difference between, what we feel and what's real. We really do.
Dive into that.
And this is all these elected officials out here.
Yeah.
And
we know a lot of them.
We know a lot of them. And some of them I love, and some of them I really do believe are in it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And there's some that I don't believe are in it for the right reasons. Dig into the details of things. Like, don't just let somebody come into your church or come into, your, community center or whatever and just say some good stuff. Do some digging,
You know how I feel about that.
Exactly. Do some digging. Look and see, how many times they've ruled in favor of a defendant, versus, the police. And I'm not saying it should be all the time, but there should be some sort of balance there.
It should.
There should be some sort of balance because, people are wrongfully arrested every day. Every single day.
All the time.
And I'll tell you, one of the most stressful things is representing somebody who's truly innocent. It really, really, really is a stressful thing because it's not enough just to get the charge reduced or to keep them out of jail, because all that stuff still comes at a price to them. So you want to really, really see, I think we really need to get into the meat of these things, what's going on in the community and what do these people really stand for? Go into the courthouse or go into City Hall, sit down. Talk, and just watch.
All this stuff is public information.
It's all public information.
Excuse me.
And just watch.
All this stuff is public information, and I don't think people understand, you can literally go down to the court and go and sit down, turn off your phone, and sit in and watch a case.
Yeah, and just stop believing everything that everybody says to you, even with our police officers. And everybody wants good police officers. I do too. But we talk about community policing. And how we want to bridge this gap between police officers and the community. But how can you do that when one of them can legally lie to you, can lie to you to your face, And I think you can't expect somebody to, build this relationship with you if they can lie to you. If you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife who literally lied to you all the time, how could you build trust with them? How could you keep trust?
It'd be impossible.
And they can legally lie to you. And there have been so many relationships and communities that have been torn down on those lies. Johnny's being interviewed by the police. Hey, Tim told on you. Tim said that you did it. Tim came in here and confessed. And it could be a complete lie. Mm-hmm. So now Tim and Johnny, who live in the same neighborhood, are at odds with each other based on that lie.
That happens a lot.
Happens every day in this city.
Yeah. Now, we got what we needed because we just talked to Tim. You know what I'm saying? Like that's they can literally just say, well, we got everything we needed, so now it's on you to tell us the truth. At this point, you just give us your truth. And it's like, what you mean? Well, Tim already told us everything. Right. What you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then it becomes a survival thing for them, and they're like, well, I didn't do anything, but let me lie based on that lie. The lies can go even further. They can lie and say they have you on camera, and they don't. They can lie and say they have fingerprints, and they don't. They can do all of these things. And, as a community, and it goes back to your original question, what are some things we can do? There is nothing stopping our police department from having what I call a truth policy. What I mean by that is, leadership in any police department across the country can say, we are not going to allow our police officers to lie to people. We really do believe in community policing. We're going to do it the right way. We are not going to arrest people based on lies that we've told. So you can have a truth policy. So one of the things you can do is ask your police chief or one of the sergeants, hey, how do you feel about a truth policy?
Yeah.
You want us to tell the truth to you, right? Well, of course we do. Well, I don't think it's too much to ask that you tell us that you give us the same thing. That's how you build in a community, a truth policy. We all gonna tell the truth to each other.
That sounds too much like right.
It could all be so simple, right?
It could all be so simple, right. But that ain't gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
And it's not a shit on the police, man.
No,
it's
not at all.
I'll say that I don't believe that all cops are bad cops. I know a lot of really good cops. I also understand that the system, though, it's an interesting system, and the system is, for lack of better words, man, it can be really fucked up for the wrong people, man. I'll never forget, man. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. There's this guy. I don't know his name. It'll come to me, of course, after this interview. I know he went to Lincoln High School, and somebody accused him of rape, like flat out rape. So it comes out, it hits the news, but he gets arrested for it, right? He's 100% innocent. Social media goes in a frenzy. I knew that nigga was a rapist. You know how people start talking about shit like this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they drugged this dude named through the fucking mud.
Right.
10 days later, it comes out that not only was he not the guy, he had absolutely nothing to do with the situation at all whatsoever. Yeah. Wasn't even there.
We got to stop believing the first thing we hear.
I mean, but think about that. Like, this guy had the press writing about him. So now, even in the event that he gets all that stuff expunged because it was an arrest, people can still Google his name, and there's going to be news articles tied to a fucking rape.
I've had situations like that too. I have two rape cases that I can think of right now. One of them, I had my client. He was I'm not going to say what he was, but he had a job, and he was accused of sexually assaulting someone on the job. It hit all the major news networks. And it was totally false. And thankfully, there was video evidence that showed that he didn't do anything. Got the case dismissed, got the case expunged. I had to fight for years against these news stations to get them to take down these articles. And their response to me was, well, we're not law enforcement, so technically we don't have to comply with a petition for expunction or anything like that. But we're going to go ahead and do it as a courtesy. As a courtesy.
Why the fuck would that even be a question, bro?
What you should do as a courtesy? Apologize. And make that apology 10 times as loud as those articles were. You wrote 5 articles on my client and how guilty he was. Write 50 on how he wasn't guilty.
They ain't going to do this shit.
They're not going to do that. I had another case, rape case. And I don't take many rape cases. I really have to dig in, I really have to look at it and see.
That's what I say. I've never even known you to take rape cases.
I don't take many. again, these are ones I've looked at and I've vetted. Another one, a rape case. Gentleman met a young lady while he was out. They date very shortly. They have sex. And then they have an argument shortly thereafter. She goes to the police. He raped me. And they had recorded these events.
Yeah.
And they had recorded the actual event that she said he raped her in.
Yeah.
And it was not rape. And even after that, they're having a conversation. They're folding clothes. They're cleaning the house.
And it's all on record.
It's all on record. It was a video. The police had access to the video.
Yeah.
And he still was charged. He was still arrested. He still had to post high bond.
That's the highest bond.
He still had to hire a lawyer. He still lost his job. He still got indicted by a grand jury.
You got to be fucking kidding me.
Right. And we still had to go through the process of getting the case dismissed. And
After all of that,
he got indicted by a grand jury, which is a whole nother segment of grand jury. And
because you can't even talk, like you as the
I'm not even allowed to be there.
I'm not even, like, if I get accused of a crime, I can't even be there to talk to the grand jury.
Your defense lawyer cannot be in a grand jury hearing. That is the prosecutor's show, and everything goes. And the way, and I can tell you this because I was a prosecutor and I've done grand jury presentations as well. Everything goes. Let's just say you are accused of that same robbery and the evidence is super weak, but they want you indicted. And let's just say 10 years ago, you stole something from Walmart doing some dumb shit with your friends or whatever, right? Oh, and this is not his first time. He's stolen before. Oh, well, if he's stolen before, then he must have did this one too. Boom, you're indicted. These indictments that are coming down aren't even based on the case at hand. It's just based on whatever. Or, oh, he's a gang member. And don't get me started on how easy it is to get labeled a gang member.
It's super easy.
You and I could walk out of here right now. Oh, you got a red shirt on with this red polo horse and this red hat. Oh, shit, and these red Jordans. You're blood.
So let me tell you a funny story about that. So when I was in the Air Force, man, we got into a fight with some guys off base one time, right? And we all just happened to be wearing red that day. Like, it was ironically, everyone was having on red, right?
You must be a gang member.
Nigga, they labeled us the Air Force Bloods.
Yeah.
Like, this shit hit the newspaper. This shit was in the papers, bro.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what the fuck? The Air Force Bloods, like that. We thought that was the most funniest shit.
Oh, yeah.
That shit hit like the Air Force Times. Like, it went around like a group of guys in such and such base are labeled the Air Force Bloods. And it made me realize in that moment, like, media is so strong, bro. Like,
it is.
This is before social media.
It is.
But a person's written perception of you or their visual perception of you can literally be a cloud that hangs over your head for the rest of your life. Like the Air Force Bloods, my nigga. Yeah. Like, think about it. You know me.
I know.
I don't do no gang banging shit.
No,
you know what I'm saying? I don't even like to hang around with a bunch of cats. I do wear a lot of red. It's my favorite color. But
you should have a right to have a favorite color. I should have a right to have
a favorite color. The Air Force, like, me and my partners, until this day, Demarcus, we laugh about that shit. Like, my partner came, this dude getting ready to retire. Like, half them cats don't retire from the Air Force. I remember one time I saw one. He's like, "What's up with your blood?" And we just bust out laughing. He said, "That's got to be the stupidest shit ever, how they labeled us." But then the Air Force had to come back years after that and publicly state on the record that they had disproportionately discharged black and brown airmen at a high rate for no reason at all.
Absolutely. These things are real. I mean, just look in Dallas about how if you used to wear the triple D symbol, then you were a gang member. Now, all of a sudden, it's been reappropriated to SMU. And now that SMU, a predominantly white institution, uses it, now it's okay.
Perfectly fine.
It's perfectly fine. But 5 or 10 years ago, a black kid who's proud of his city and wants to wear an emblem that represents the city, oh, you can't wear it. You're a gang member. Yeah. And I can tell you, going into the courtroom and having that on somebody's paperwork is hard.
But then when they stop you too.
And when they
put that stuff in the databases, now they're pulling you over.
Absolutely.
And they're looking at your profile or your file, and it says that you're gang affiliated, or it says that you're part of this or part of that. And it's just like, that traffic stop ain't gonna go right. It ain't gonna go well in your favor.
Absolutely.
And that's why I tell people, like, even with our mentoring program, like shut the fuck up. Be courteous. Don't get emotional. I think a lot of times when I see a lot of these police stops going bad, not to excuse the police at all, the rogue police officers who are acting in that capacity, not all the cops, but the specific ones in those situations, the number one common denominator is that the person on the other side of it, they get too emotional. And it's like, bro, shut the fuck up. Cuffs in the front or the back, officer. Like, that's it. You know what I'm saying? If you suspect me of committing a crime and there's nothing I can say to change you, then am I going to be charged with this crime? And if so, when will I be able to call my attorney? Yeah. Like, that's it.
Yeah, you're never going to win that battle in the streets.
No.
Even if you deserve to win it, even if you are 1,000% right, you're never going to win that battle in the streets. You know, hell, you might or might not win in the courtroom, but you got to give yourself a fighting chance.
I want to walk away from a situation.
You want to live.
I want to live. And in today's day and age, it is not unrealistic for me to suggest or think that I can possibly be killed at a traffic stop because I didn't understand how to handle it. And I know people gonna watch this. I get people in my inbox all the time like, man, but I get it. I'm saying for me, when I've been pulled over by the cops, I'm the nicest motherfucker you'll ever meet.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, good evening, officer. How's everything going? If they got an attitude, oh, my apologies. Right. Here's my driver's license here. Let me know. For your safety and mine, I'm going to keep my hands up here. Right. It ain't about me being no punk. It ain't about me being shit. It's about me being able to get the fuck home and call your ass. Right. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Absolutely. If I feel like them motherfuckers did something they shouldn't have did, I'm going to get to the house. I'm going to call you or Daniel. Absolutely. And be like, hey, pull this call, pull this motherfucking video. Let's see what we can get out of this because I know I did everything right. They didn't have any reason to pull me over. I didn't do anything illegal.
As a lawyer, I'm still doing that. And I've had some very pleasant interactions with the police to where I'm like, damn, I wish they were more like that in my neighborhood.
Absolutely.
You know? And then I've had some very unpleasant ones where I've been called everything. You name it, I've been called it. Nigga and everything else.
I had a cop tell me to shut the fuck up one time.
Oh, yeah.
Just off the top.
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, officer, why am I shut the fuck up?
Right. Okay.
I see where this gonna go.
You see where it's gonna go, and the thing about it is, and you hate it for the good ones, you know, and that's why I think another thing we need, and I don't know if we'll ever get there, but like public officials have to hold other public officials accountable.
They do,
you know, because you should be offended by the rogue public official. You should be.
You know, a lot of times when I fall off with people, especially people that's close to me, I would say 9 times out of 10 is because I held them accountable on some bullshit and they ain't want to acknowledge it, right? And I feel like a lot of people are afraid to face that confrontation, Demarcus. Like if I firmly believe if Demarcus Ward saw Tim Jackson doing some sucker ass shit,
I'm gonna tell you,
Demarcus Ward would pick up the phone and the first thing you would be like is, nigga, what the fuck are you doing?
And that's exactly how the conversation would go.
Or I get that text message with nigga in all caps. What the fuck are you doing? It's just like, that's accountability, right? But I think a lot of these public officials, because they need the person to vote for them. Okay, well, listen, I voted for you on this. You voted for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, we think about the council level and shit like that. And it's like, okay, well, there's no accountability. I need the votes. I
mean, being real is hard at any level. And it is. I mean, especially at that level. I mean, imagine, you know, being somebody who is elected for all the right reasons and you want to do things for all the right reasons and you're going up against a system of people who basically are just there to collect the check and to assert power and to use it for their personal gain. It's tough.
It's tough as a bitch.
It's tough. It is. Yeah. And they're going to try to get rid of you because they just want the
squeaky wheel gets replaced. They tell us in the military all the time, the squeaky wheel gets replaced. And I never knew what the fuck that meant until I became a zoning commissioner. Because when they don't like you, bro, they will come against you. I didn't have an issue on the zoning commissioner for me per se, but I would see in politics here locally, you'd have that one politician that's actually trying to do something right. And everybody like, no, she making the block hot, or no, he drawing too much attention to us.
But that's why we have to support good people, you know. And when I go back to judges, like we have to support good judges. You know, I've never seen a judge lose their seat for screwing over an individual defendant. Yeah. I've seen a judge lose their seat for going up against the police. I've seen a judge lose their seat for going up against the DA's office. So the rational thing for them to do is to protect themselves. So we as a community, we've got to get behind those good people. You know, if there's going to be a force coming up against them for doing the right thing, there should be an equal force behind them, supporting them for doing the right thing.
That's real. That's real. Let's talk bail reform. Let's talk bail. I often follow these groups and I watch posts where people talk about how the criminal justice system is out of control and bail is out of control. So how does this work? Explain this to me. Let's say I go to jail and my bond is $10,000. I can either pay the $10,000, which in most cases most people don't have,
right,
or I can get an attorney or a bail bondsman to pay 90% of that, and then I pay the 10%.
Correct.
And that 10%, is that gone forever?
That's gone forever. That's gone forever. And that's a good explanation of it. Correct. Like if you get a $10,000 bond, you or somebody can go pay $10,000 in cash to the jail, and they'll hold it until the case is closed.
And then you get all that money back.
Not all of it. You get
because court fees and shit.
They're gonna hit you for fees.
Yeah.
You never get all your money back. They're gonna hit you for fees and things like that. Now, if your bond gets revoked for whatever reason, let's just say you're an hour late for court, and the bond gets revoked, then that bond, that $10,000 is potentially gone forever.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. That's another reason why sometimes even if people have it, they don't want to risk their own money. So your other options are to go through a bail bond company, or if you're fortunate enough to have an attorney who does their own bonds in-house, so you're not subject to all the stuff.
My attorney does his own bonds in-house.
I do my own in-house, and this is why. When I first left the DA's office and I'm going to court for my clients because their bonds had been revoked, a lot of times it wasn't the judges that were revoking the bonds. It was the bond companies getting off the bonds and the warrants coming out.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Tim Jackson is on bond. He needs to report to me at 9 a.m. every Tuesday. Well, he shows up at 9:05 instead of 9. I'm going to get off his bond. So I'm in court fighting stupid things like that.
Damn.
You know?
But they still get to keep that 10%.
Absolutely.
So that becomes a hustle.
It becomes a hustle. Or Tim Jackson has paid me the $1,000 for his $10,000 bond, but he can't afford the $100 hidden monthly maintenance fee that I didn't tell his mama about when she came to post his bond. You know what? So I'm going to jump off his bond.
Pause. Let's back up.
Let's talk about those hidden fees, too.
Hidden monthly maintenance fee?
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck is that?
The bail bond system, there's a lot of things that people don't know. And a lot of times they don't know or don't pay attention to it because when somebody's in jail, they're trying to get them on the ground for the smallest amount out of pocket possible. Let's say you got a $10,000 bond. Let's say they say, hey, we're going to work with you. We'll let you pay $500 of it now. You can pay the other $500 in 30 days.
Yeah.
You're thinking all you got to do is pay $1,000 total, right? But then you go check in with the bond company and they have you sign some more paperwork. Well, if you say I don't want to sign it, if you don't want to sign it, we'll revoke it. If you do sign it, there's all sort of hidden fees in there. You know, where you got to pay $25 for this, $50 for that, and you got to come in. Well, my job, I have to go to work on Tuesday. Well, you got to figure it out. You know, all of these little things like that to where you're on the hook. That's why I started doing it, because I'm able to control it. I can say, hey, look, this is what it is. This is all it's going to be. You know, and
we're
here it is
you a text. Let me know you straight. Or whatever your system says.
Right. You don't need to. I don't need to hear from your mom or your aunt or whatever. Like, you and I are gonna have a good relationship. We're gonna be talking about your case anyway. We're gonna be going over things. We're gonna be talking anyway. So we're already checking in with each other because I'm fighting your case with you. So that's one less thing for you to have to deal with. And you don't have to wonder, is there another fee I don't know about? Or if I don't pay him $25, is he gonna file the paperwork to get off my bond? And then he has to go in and do that. So that's why I got into it. Not necessarily to make money. It has become profitable, I'll be honest. But my whole thing was I got tired of going into court, fighting other people's bonds and having to fight against them and seeing my clients get screwed over and their moms and their wives and everybody else.
Let's talk about that, because I know some people will have an issue with that, right? They'll say, well, you're just a part of the solution. You're part of the problem too. But it's like, Demarcus isn't the system. Demarcus is a person who operates within the system.
Right.
And he's finding a loophole within the system that actually helps his defendants, who helps his clients, because if they don't go through him, they're going to go through someone else who's going to screw them over. So it's like, at what point in the game do you say, hey, we need more attorneys like Demarcus who's going to actually use integrity and say, hey, this is what it is, this is what it's going to be, this is how the game works, but I promise you, there's no more bullshit outside of this. Like, this is all you're doing. And we got to start getting on that page, because if you can't overnight wave a magic wand and change the system, it's never going to happen. The system's it's not going to change. Right. But you have operators that come in and operate with integrity to make sure that it's operating in your benefit if you do have to partake in that system. And that's something I admire about you, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And don't get it twisted. Like, it costs money for me to do that. It's not just something for free. I don't wave a magic wand and say, hey, I want to post bonds. It's a hefty financial investment.
Yes, it is.
And there's some risk involved as well. And there's a lot of management there. You have to hire people and put them in place. So, it's not one of those deals to where, there's an entire industry doing this and I get the benefit of just doing it for free for anybody. I wish I could. I really do. But I can't. Our bail bond system can and should be reformed. It shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg for you to get out of jail, especially if you're presumed innocent. How am I innocent, but I've got to pay $1,000 to get out of jail?
Yeah,
how am
crazy.
I innocent, but I got to pay $2,500 to get out of jail?
That's crazy.
My client with the sex assault case, the first one that was on video, the police came to his house, and he lived in the suburbs, and they came to his house with AR-15s, drug him out of his house, had to post a bond, had to do all of that. There should have been another opportunity. Nobody ever called him and said, hey, you've got a warrant. We're going to give you X amount of days to turn yourself in.
Right.
That's better for him. That's better for the police department. That doesn't put anybody in danger. Hey, you are presumed innocent according to our Constitution, so we're not going to make you pay for a bond. As long as you promise to appear and you do what you say you're going to do, we're going to make this. We're going to make sure this interrupts your life as little as possible. Since we say that you're cloaked in this blanket of innocence until proven guilty, but we all know that that's not the case.
Not the case.
And then let's not get on this electronic leg monitoring industry as well that we've got going on here.
That's a lick, ain't it?
It's a lick. It's a lick. I mean, and if you can look online for Dallas County, it's self-funded. What that means is you're paying for it. We rely on taking money from you to pay us. And most of the time in situations like this, you've got to get permission to literally go outside and talk to your neighbor. You've got to get permission to go down the street to McDonald's to get your kids some food. You've got to get permission to go look for a job, to go to a job. You can't even go see your mom.
That's crazy.
I had a client who had 4 boys. And we all know that boys, when they're teenagers, they can eat.
Right.
She was falsely accused of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. She was truly innocent. We had all the evidence in the world that she was innocent. She went to jail, had to post a bond that she shouldn't have had to post. And then they put a leg monitor on her. And so she's faced with, and then when you get the leg monitor, you're assigned an agent. And you can check in with this person and ask them if you can do little things like go eat or go to church. They don't always respond.
Is this an officer of the, is this like an officer of the court?
No, it's not an officer of the court. It is a government officer that reports to the court. Now, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day about how they're supposed to be independent, but they really work with the DAs to mess people over.
Yeah.
But they're supposed to be an independent reporting agency, but it's not always that way. But what do you do as a mother when you're faced with, hey, I have emailed and called this agent and I have no food in the house and I've got 4 boys and I'm falsely accused? And I think even people who did it deserve due process. She was falsely accused.
Yeah.
And so she's got to decide between, do I violate the terms of this leg monitor device and feed my kids, or am I negligent and I don't feed my kids? And nobody should ever be faced with that.
Yeah, because that's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Because now if you're not feeding your kids, then that's child abuse, ain't it?
Then they're going to charge you with something else.
Shit,
so
Demarcus.
It's like you can't win. And so there are so many things that when you talk about reform, I've got a million ideas, from my truth policy to, PR bonds, what they call them, personal recognizance bonds. Give somebody an opportunity to just show up and just, fight their fight before you take all this money from mama, grandmama. You got grandmama putting up the title to her home on a bond with some bond company and things like that. And there's no knock on the bond company because they're just there to make money operating. They're operating within an industry.
And that's a tough thing because it's like every industry is gonna have. There's gonna always be an industry where somebody loses, right? Like, are you mad at them because this is the way the system is set up? Right. Somebody's got to do the bonds, right?
And there's always going to be an industry where some people do it the right way and some people do it the wrong way. Where some people take advantage of rules and play, and some people don't. Some people are there to serve. I really am there to serve. I really am. Above all, I believe if you serve, the money comes. There's 100%. A lot of money to be made in this industry.
100%, literally.
You don't have to fuck people over to get it either. You don't. You can still make good money and not do that to people. And you're right. And it is a tough thing to navigate through, trying to stomach all of this stuff when you see people literally doing wrong and not taking care of people and taking care of things. But that's our system.
Let's segue into the last part. You and I come from very similar backgrounds, right? We grew up in Southeast Dallas, East Dallas, whatever you want to call it. I grew up in Pleasant Grove, which is Southeast Dallas. You grew up in East Dallas, right?
I was born and raised in Rosen Homes. Rosen Homes Projects. That's just north, a little east, northeast Dallas.
Yeah.
Then we moved east.
Okay.
Over here. But I'm a proud product of Rosen Homes and East Dallas.
So grew up, saw a lot of nigga shit. I like to call it nigga shit. Still see it. Very, very close to a lot of shit that we probably ain't proud of.
Right.
We don't have any issues with moving around in the city.
Right.
However you want to interpret that. But you and I, regardless of what we saw and what happened in our lives, we chose a different path. Right. We could have easily chose the streets. Easily.
Right.
Streets ain't nothing but a phone call away to this day.
Right.
What do you say to a young man who's on social media right now watching this, who really, really wants to get the best out of life, but just doesn't have a blueprint because they don't see this shit, but then they see a Tim Jackson and Demarcus Ward who literally grew up just like they grew up.
Right.
Can tell you all kinds of stories. I always say JPay needs to send me a W-2, They need to send me some tax information, as much money as I send through that system, right? I bet if you wrote off all the cases where you help people out,
right,
you probably have a 6 figures worth of write-offs because you're always giving back your time, every energy, helping people out. And I can speak personally to that.
Right.
What would you say to a young man like us? A young Tim, a young Demarcus coming up right now who just really don't see another way outside of the streets or the hustle, but they know that there's something better.
Well, the benefit that kids today have that I didn't have and that you didn't have is that you got the internet first and foremost.
Brother, when I tell people we had those AOL CDs for 15 minutes on the dial-up network, and we had to go to the fucking library to do research, like people don't understand that was 20 years ago.
Right. So, so what I would tell a young man today is think about the life you want, not at 21, 22, but at 40, 45, and work your way backwards. Think about the life you want then and work your way backwards. And the benefit that you have now with social media and all the content, and there's a lot of bad content, but there's a lot of really good quality content out there, is that you can literally look at the life you want and you can literally watch somebody else live it.
Damn.
And the blueprints are right there. Even if it's not in your neighborhood, it's on your phone. It's in your hand. It's in your hand. You don't even have to go outside.
Access.
You have access.
Damn.
And at least what that should do is plant some seeds.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Who are they talking to? What books are they reading? You've got the World Wide Web. Hell, half of these books you can just Google it and find a PDF version.
A free version. Somebody upload it. Yeah.
Library card is what, $1? If that.
If that.
If that.
And most libraries are transitioning online.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So think about the life you want. Really, really think about the life you want and work your way backwards from there. And so that's what I would tell a young person. I wish I had YouTube, Instagram, and all the other opportunities here. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, well, how do I do that? Well, let me just YouTube it. And there's a video on how to, stain your fence. How to
YouTube
put an alternator.
University, bro.
How to put an alternator in your car.
Bro,
I've learned as much from YouTube as I have 7 years of college.
Bro, I done broke my mirror on my truck like 3 times, bro. Like, my wife did it pulling out, and she hit it up against the garage, and then I've done it twice. Don't ask me how I've done it twice. Bro, I went to YouTube, pulled up the video, learn how to change the mirror out. I got with the dealership. I'm like, yeah, how much it costs? $1,000. I'm like, what the fuck?
We're gonna get on YouTube.
Bro, I done found a piece. I got so bad with it about a third time. It was already suggesting it for me. I was like, let me just order this piece for, $79, $80 and just fix it myself. But literally, they have access to social media right now. They have YouTube where I can literally Google the lifestyle I want. And then, like you said, navigate it backwards.
Absolutely.
I think that's the book, The 7 Steps of Highly Successful People. I think I'm saying that right.
Yep.
Stephen Covey.
Yep, I've got it.
Start with the end in mind, or begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, you have to.
That's literally what that is.
You have to begin with the end in mind because it keeps you motivated and keeps you focused.
Damn.
It's that thing. I mean, it keeps you focused, and it's so much easier to, get with an online community than it is to find these people in your neighborhood. Because a lot of times, the engineer that you want to be is not in your neighborhood, or the real estate mogul that you want to be might not be down the street, but hell, he's in your hand.
He is.
And a lot of these folks won't respond to you, but hell, all you need is 1 or 2.
A lot of them don't respond to you initially because they have a barrier of entry, right? They want to make sure you're not full of shit. They want to make sure that when you do reach out, that you're going to take the information and do it. So what I always tell people is start going to these meetups. If you see that person's going to be in town, or you see this person's put on an event, go to the event. Pay the money for the VIP session. Get in front of them and don't waste their fucking time. But even if you don't pay the money for the VIP session, just show up. You can show up to anywhere with a camera and people will think that you're part of the digital team, man. Like I literally have a bag now and I just created a fake credential. I'm about to start showing up as No More OGs Media and just start going into places, bro. I did it at an event. Like you kidding, you laughing and shit. But I went to an event in Chicago and I had all my camera equipment in my backpack and they just thought I was the media.
Absolutely.
And I can literally get, and I interview people with like names.
A lot of times it's about acting like you belong.
Bruh.
A lot of times it is.
It's not fake it till you make it.
It's acting like you belong.
Acting like you belong. There's a total difference. We were taught to fake it till you make it. No, act like you belong. I tell William that all the time. We go places, he started doing some extra shit. I'm like, son, act like you've been here before. He's like, all right, Dad, I get it. Like,
absolutely.
Act like you've been here before. Man, where can they find you, bro?
They can find me on Instagram at the Ward Law Group, THE Ward Law Group. Just started TikTok, which is at DWardESQ. Phone number 214-777-3319. That's 214-777-3319. I'm easy to get a hold of. Call me, text me, hit me up on Instagram. I'll be back here as well because I've got a list of things that we didn't even touch on that I want to talk about, like probation. Ooh. And how to work through probation. How to deal with a difficult probation officer, how to get off probation early, because there are ways to get off probation early. There's a whole series on that we got to talk about. Pretext stops. The things that, what can a police officer pull you over for? What are your rights when you're stopped right there? We got a lot of other things to cover.
Before we wrap it up, how the fuck do you get off probation early? I want you to hit that before we leave.
Well, I mean, like I say, it's a session unto itself, but the short of it is get halfway through. Do all the conditions, take all the classes, pay the fees, and then get a lawyer to file what's called a motion for early termination of probation. Get halfway through, do the classes, pay the fees, file the motion. Halfway through, do the classes, pay the fees, file the motion.
So you're saying here in the state of Texas, we talk Texas because we're here. If I get halfway through my probation, do all the courses, pay the fees, and hire my attorney to file a motion, there's a good chance that my probation will be terminated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's called a motion for early termination of probation. Sometimes if you want to Google it, it might say motion for early termination of community supervision, because community supervision is the official term. Probation is the other term, is the short version of it. But there are ways to do that too. A lot of people don't know that. A 4-year probation period can easily be a 2-year probation period if you have the right guidance. And that's something that we do when, for our cases where people get placed on probation, and we aim for dismissals every time, and we get it sometimes, and sometimes we don't. Any lawyer that gets up here telling you, I win all the time, they're lying. Michael Jordan lost a bunch of games. LeBron lost a bunch of games. Both of them are still great, and both of them still work hard at their craft. We follow our clients through that. And I tell my clients, and I mean it, like, hey, this isn't the end for us. This is literally the beginning.
Yeah.
I want to know if your field officer is an asshole or not. I want to know how they're treating you. I want to know how you're doing on the classes and stuff like that. and we literally will calendar check-ins with them because we want you to get off early. And there are some judges who may even let you off even earlier than that.
Yes.
You've got to show that you're for real about it. Now, there's one court in Dallas County that does a 6-month check-in. So they want to know how you're doing after 6 months. And a lot of times people that think that that's because they're trying to be hard on you, but not really. It's also an opportunity.
Because if you come in there shining, there's a good opportunity to get off. I just spoke at a court yesterday, at criminal court, and she has an amazing program for her people, man. It's just like, there's so many judges here in Dallas. I can't speak for nowhere else. There's so many judges here in Dallas that really don't want you in that system.
Absolutely.
And they have literally put together programs that says, if you just check these boxes and do what the fuck you supposed to do, I will sign your dismissal. You can get the fuck out of here and never come back again, but
you got to do the work.
You got to put the work in.
You got to do the work.
Demarcus, brother, man, thank you so much for coming. Listen, I wanna let you know that we got a list of shit, so we're gonna do some more videos pretty soon. But listen, you guys, follow Demarcus everywhere that he's at. Like, this is my personal attorney. He's been an attorney for our nonprofit organization. His partner, I've used his partner for some cases. My wife has used his partner. Like, literally, their law group is the truth. But here's the thing. Demarcus is a resource. And a lot of times we say we don't have it, but you have resources right next to you. You just won't utilize them, right? On this platform, I'm bringing you guys resources. We are not celebrity endorsed. I'm bringing y'all real people talking about real shit, doing real shit, helping you get in a position to where you can win. So that's all I got for you today. This is the No More OGs podcast. Like, subscribe, follow. Make sure you give my boy a follow, and we'll see you soon.